Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Mainstream Monday here on Horror Film Lovers. I'm your host, Jonathan Moody, and I'm here with
John Ward.
John Ward, and we are here to talk about Saw number two, Dose.
Dos.
Um, this was the first time watch before when I watched it. I watched it a while ago. I did not rewatch it. I know enough now that if you start talking about it, I'll remember everything. Pretty much. So I know you said you wanted a little just a refresher before
I
doing the show.
rewatched it earlier today, so
Yeah. So anyway, this is the sequel to the movie reviewed on the last Mainstream Monday, the first Saw, and it was the first movie that James Wan didn't direct, and I think it was the only I guess it's all the other ones he didn't direct. He didn't direct any of the other Saw movies after
no.
this one. So but Darren Lynn Bousman, who's the director of this one, has directed like a ton of these movies and stuff. And I guess he's sort of the director of Saw, like people like go to him. I think he did like Jigsaw, if I'm correct, or something. Not Jigsaw. Was it Jigsaw?
No, he did Spiral, which
Spiral.
I thought him directing it was a mistake.
Yeah. That's I don't know why Chris Rock and company got him to do it, but we'll get to that when we do Spiral, and
Down the
everything
road.
down the road. I will let everybody know that, and I'm letting John know for the first time. We are taking a break in the month of May for Mainstream Monday. There'll still be things on Horror Film Lovers, but I'm gonna take a month break because I've got way too much stuff going on, too many podcasts and other shit, and chaos, and I just kind of want to have a little break. And I'm gonna also help John out on a couple videos that he wants me to do that I wouldn't be able to do if we were just constantly doing this. So I want to do
What are we
that.
doing?
I think we've got a zombie thing going, and and we're also reviewing some Rapture movies. So
Oh yeah, the Rapture stuff, and then the zombie thing is if you're talking about the one where I suggested I do it, like the
yeah,
Zombie Sunday thing, that's still up in the air. I
yeah.
even thought of doing like Amity Review Sunday or something like that. I don't know, but
Okay.
it's so that's all up
Well,
in
I
the air.
just want to give you, a time where I can be available,
But
so I'm
definitely
not.
Rapture stuff. The
Oh yeah, we'll do
Left
that.
Behind. Yeah.
But anyway, so we're gonna be talking about Saw 2 and my thoughts on it to begin with, because it had been my first time seeing it, and having it been my first time seeing it, I enjoyed it. It was I liked
That doesn't sound very. I mean, kind of like.
I liked Saw 1 better, but I think the problem I have with this is the problem I have with a lot of specific subgenres like found footage and other subgenres of horror, is that after a while they kind of feel like the same movie. Just, you know, just done with maybe like this one had a bigger budget and bigger cast, you know. That's probably going to be a lot of my thoughts on every single one of these is going to be my guess. I mean, the kills are cool, but after a while, it feels this. It's like, okay, Jigsaw captured people, and now they have to figure out how to get out.
I'm going to disagree with you.
Okay,
I think this is better than Saw, than the first one.
okay.
Um, it already starts fan theories, and which is basically there's the at the very beginning with the first kill with the Iron Maiden, where we see the guy in a cloak and he's limping,
Hmm.
and he kind of shows him the eye, like how it's all like stitched up and all that. So that I think that's either the director or one of the producers, but for some reason that person decided to give the character a limp, and it was meant to be Jigsaw, but Jigsaw has no
Limp.
medical knowledge at all. And so because of the limp that was done by accident, the fan theory on that is that's Dr. Gordon.
Okay.
And that fan theory pays off, down the road. But
Well, wait. What was it started as a fan theory, and then they just said, "Oh, let's just lean into that theory that
I
everybody."
think so for final chapter. And
See, that's the
it
beautiful thing about doing a franchise this big, you know, is that after a while you can start listening to the fans and say, "Oh, they have some great ideas. Let me just steal those from them."
Yeah, it's on one of the behind the scenes that I had on the DVDs, and I forget if it's the director or one of those three main producers. And when they asked, well, why did you do it with a limp? He goes, I don't know. He goes, I just did a limp. And that ended up with people going, that's got to be Dr. Gordon because he's missing a foot. And of course we know that just Jigsaw doesn't have the medical background.
Hmm.
So it's and then the guy at the beginning who gets the Iron Maiden is a main actor that the director does use a lot in his films.
Hmm.
So I'm guessing that Lionsgate said okay, probably barely paid the guy any money, and and that's so they got him to do that. What I
It's
find
got
funny,
kind of like James Gunn always using the same people, and they just let him put or Kevin Smith or Quentin Tarantino,
well,
whatever.
maybe at this point they didn't know how big the series would become, so they're just like, okay, yeah, you could use your buddy, because nobody knows who this guy is. I've still never seen anything with him in it. He's just a friend of the director who's been in a few of his, I guess, like short films or something, and then he got in it. So lucky break for him.
Oh,
Uh,
excuse
also this script was a standalone movie. It
me.
was
Right,
not Saw 2. It was actually the same idea, but a completely different movie. So it and they just rewrote it for Scream. I mean for Saw 2. So that's kind of, lucky for him,
right.
you know. Uh
Um, I'm trying to see who is the guy that you're talking about that in the beginning was a character named Gus. Is that Tony Napo? No,
um,
Gus is in a couple of the Saw movies or whatnot. Maybe he's in
cast.
Chucky and
It is
um.
he okay, man. So this does a further.
Huh. Sorry, people. We're now just doing some research. Um, let's see.
I don't see his name in the in here, but I'm looking on Wikipedia, not IMDb. Um,
It's not Jayla Rose, right? Because Jayla Rose is in a bunch of his movies, but I don't think he comes into like Saw 3. Yeah, he doesn't come until Saw 3. Um, let's see. Genetic Opera. Holy crap. Ah, he does use Jayla Rose a lot, though.
well, maybe I'm getting it confused. I could swear it was this guy that was in the audio commentary. He says that that's a buddy of his,
Okay.
but I mean, it could be a different guy, but I thought it was him. So no, I could be wrong about that, because I think for part 3, the beginning kill is in a classroom, like in a school, and I think that's his buddy gets killed in the school.
If
So
that's Jayla Rose, who I believe, or
so
something.
it must be part 3 then. I don't know who this guy is then.
Because Jayla Rose has been in all his movies, including his two short films.
Yeah, it
And
must be that then.
I met Jay. He was at I think he was at a horror convention and stuff, and super cool, super laid back. but the funny thing is, I hadn't seen like Saw 3. I hadn't seen, I still haven't seen it because we haven't reviewed it yet. We're not reviewing it yet. But yeah, he's been in a ton of these movies, including Insidious. So he's worked with James Wan, a couple
Mhm.
times. So yeah, very cool. Um, but yeah, so to go back, so you said what were you saying right before we got off on this little tangent?
Um, I'm trying to see because this is Cancer Boy in Norse Room. It's like he's just not. I don't think. Does he even have a name?
Who?
The guy, the first kill.
Maybe not.
Now, now I'm looking at IMDb and I don't.
You don't see him on there?
No, this doesn't help. It really should be because there's like nurse in cancer ward, boy in cancer ward. This should be like guy with Iron Maiden mask or something. Yeah, I don't know who this guy is. Then I can't find him. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm guessing you could Google it, but it's okay. It's not a big deal.
No, it's only if it was a quick find. So
So let's go with the. What I'm gonna do. I've been liking doing this where I'm gonna read the Wikipedia plot, and then we will go over it. We'll go over that.
oh no, here, police informant Michael. That was on IMDb.
Yep. Okay. Yep. Yep.
Uh,
Yep. So he's in the first thing. So the first thing that says on the plot is police informant Michael awakens in a room with a spike-filled mask locked around his neck. Um,
so okay, and Michael is listed in the credits here. I don't really know why he even has to have a name, really. Michael Norm Jenkins.
Noam, because it's Noam, so Noam, kind of like Noah, but I guess Noam,
Noam.
Noam. But he's in Saw 4 as well. Spoiler alert. Um,
Uh, Probably in a flashback.
probably, with a couple other kills that they showed off.
He's had a ton of TV shows.
Cool.
Yeah, a ton of TV shows. Yeah, I thought when I rewatched this that this was the director's buddy, and yeah, so he comes in part three. Yeah,
All right,
so
so let's look into this, and then we'll like respond when we want to say something. So feel free to interrupt me or whatever in this plot thing, or if sometimes Wikipedia is wrong, but not as much. Police informant Michael awakens in a room with a spike-filled mask locked around his neck. Billy the puppet on a screen tells him that the key to open the death mask is located inside his eye. He isn't able to retrieve the key in time and is killed when the mask closes on his head, which is a pretty cool death. At the scene of Michael's murder, Detective Carey finds a message for his former partner, Detective Eric Matthews. Matthews joins Carey and Officer Rigg in leading a SWAT team to a factory which produced the lock from the Michael's trap. There, they apprehend John Kramer, the jigsaw killer, who indicates computer monitors showing 8 people trapped in a house, including his only known survivor, Amanda, Matthew's son Daniel, which they're skipping like a lot. You know, it's giving just like the roundabout because like there was a bit with you get to see the detective with his son and the relationship between the two of them. It's very hostile, sort of. Didn't seem very,
yeah, it's a
you know,
dysfunctional one. I think also in the audio commentary is the director mentions that Rig is actually Riggs. So it's their little tribute to Lethal Weapon,
Nice,
Martin
nice.
Riggs, but they just changed it from Riggs to Rig.
Yeah, so it's not. Yeah, so it's not. I guess not a complete ripoff. Um, Even though there's no trademark on Officer Riggs. So, um, but I guess it's just nicer that they have their own. It has its own character. All right. So, Matthew's son Daniel and six other victims: Xavier, Jonas, Laura, Addison, Obi, and Gus. A nerve agent filling the house will kill them all within 2 hours. But John assures Matthew that if he follows the rules of his own game, he will find Daniel again in a safe place. At Carrie's urging, Matthews agrees to buy time for the tech team to arrive and trace the video signal. During their conversation, John reveals to Matthew that his main motivation for his games was a suicide attempt after his cancer diagnosis, which led to a newfound appreciation of life. The games are intended to help the victims develop the same appreciation. What do you think
So
so far?
this gets retconned a little bit later on.
Okay.
So it's yeah, it's as we find out about like John Kramer's wife and some of this other stuff. It gets a little retconned, but it's because they just kind of keep adding to it.
Right.
So it's like it's still there that he gets into the car accident and the pole is there, but then there's other things added to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Um, all right. So the group is informed by a microcassette recorder that antidotes are hidden throughout the house. One is in their room safe, and the tape provides a cryptic clue. Gus ignores a warning note and uses the key provided with the cassette on the door, which triggers a revolver around the people that kills them. That, I mean, what a dumbass. That was like the dumbest, because I think even John knew somebody was going to be that dumb to not listen to the instructions that says, do not use the key for that door, you know?
Well, yeah, because the one guy, the drug dealer guy, is not going. He's dumb, so he's not going to listen to people, and he's not going to be told what to do. And the thing is, while watching this, it's one of those movies where if they don't go left, it kind of screws up Jigsaw's plans. If they don't go upstairs, it kind of fucks up his plans. If they don't, but like I had mentioned to you in the first film, something that happens in one is explained in three, something that happens in two is explained in five. So you then go back and we get more detail with like the gun on the door, and you so it becomes like, oh, okay, I see. Okay, all right, now I get it.
So what
Now
you're,
I okay.
so what you're saying is you couldn't watch this in sort of a specific order, right? Like you couldn't like, how we watch like the
No,
Insidious in a certain order or whatever, like, you couldn't watch it like
you
that because there's no chronological. Everything is sort of, as you said, retconned and changed and
it
explained
still makes
or
sense, but it's one of those things where you wouldn't be able to watch, like there would really be no point you could do it, but between like Saw 1 and 2, watch Saw 10. Okay, fine. It doesn't really matter if you watch it in that order.
Mhm,
But this is they add more and more characters, and those characters do stuff that we don't see.
mhm,
So if somebody is introduced in part three, we may not see something that they did
until part 6.
until part six that they did in part three.
Right. Okay.
So it's you would have to have somebody go through and literally re-edit the entire series to put it in continuity.
I don't know if I'd want to watch that. It's way too long. Um, you'd have to definitely take breaks on that, but like, where would you stop? Like,
Yeah, it's interesting because with something like Amanda, like when she goes up and plays with the gun, like
Hmm.
when they open that door and she kind of wants to pull the gun down, but it won't come down. I I know something with that gun that you don't. So I found it funny that she did certain things to fool people and the audience before we get the twist at the end.
Hmm.
So it's like, okay, so is this only being done for the audience or is this being done for the people in the movie? Like
Like
so
when she goes in to get, and I'll explain that I think in this, but when she goes in and starts putting all her hands in everything and stuff like that, and she's trying to, it wasn't broken glass, it was
no, it's needles. It was
needles.
dirty
Oh, it was
needles.
dirty like heroin needles or whatever
Yeah.
and stuff, and she was doing that, and she was going, oh, that scene, I'm sorry, man, that just and it was supposed to, right? Like it
Oh
got
yeah,
exactly
it's
what it's supposed to do, but like
right.
I
But I don't think that she be because we know the twist at the end, that I don't think that she ever intended for him to throw her in.
uh,
I don't think that some of the stuff involved with her
but then
was
how are
meant to
they,
happen.
so were they all supposed to die pretty much except for her? I don't.
Yes, I think so. Yeah,
All right. So,
because she for some reason she's tested twice, but she does say that she's here to take over John's legacy. So maybe that's the test. The second test is how loyal are you
how
to.
loyal are you, which going into a whole thing of needles and shit and coming out of it alive and whatnot, which um all right. So, next is what is it? So after that, once the door opens, they search the house and find a basement where Obi, who helped that's the name of my cat, by the way, so I like that name. Um,
Oh, that's funny.
who helped with abducting the other victims, is killed in a furnace trap while trying to retrieve two antidotes. In another room, Xavier's test involves digging through a pit filled with syringes to retrieve a key to a steel door in 2 minutes, but he instead throws Amanda into the pit. So, yeah, that was it. So, it was intended for him to do it because he's the
Right.
drug dealer and stuff, but he's an asshole. And he grabs her and says, "Fuck you, you're going in there." And so she wasn't planning that. Her and John wanted him to go and do it, but instead he threw her in there and she had to go through it and get that, which, I mean, ugh. Once again, just thinking about it just makes me, ugh. Um, so she retrieves the key, but Xavier fails to unlock the door in time. Throughout the game, the group discusses connections between them and determine that each has been incarcerated because before, except Daniel. During his father's test, John reveals their affiliation to Matthews, who was a corrupt police officer who framed his suspects in various crimes. Xavier returns to safe room and finds a number on the back of Gus's neck. After realizing the numbers are the combination for the safe, I never realized that. I forgot about that, but I don't think I was like, why the fuck are they looking at the things at the neck? I thought it was like that's who's gonna die first, second, third, and
No, no.
or whatever, but that was the combination to the
I
safe.
didn't get the like over the rainbow. I know the numbers are colored. Each person has a different color. So I'm guessing that's the rainbow reference, but I don't really show how that's relevant to opening the safe.
Right.
So let's just say everybody worked together and they're like, oh shit, there's a number on my neck. Hey, what is it? And they write it on the wall and then they open it and then they get the one vaccine out.
Right.
So, okay, so the numbers, all right, I get that. How does over the rainbow work except that they're just different colors? It's like, okay, so Glenn plumber's in this. He's a black guy, so the numbers are silver. Okay, so you can see them, but then when somebody's white, they're like a red or a black, so they don't blend in with the skin. So it's like, okay, so they're different colors. What does that have to do with a rainbow?
I mean, the rainbows have colors, right? Like, I don't know.
But they would. It's not like they had to find a picture with a rainbow
Wasn't
and then
Over the Rainbow like a song from Wizard of Oz?
yes, Wizard of Oz, yeah.
So was it a Wizard of Oz reference, maybe?
I I mean, over the rainbow, I guess would be, but there's nothing in this movie
That suggests that they
that
were
suggests
that there's Dorothy, that any of them's not from Kansas or you
no.
know.
It's just a weird jigsaw thing.
It's really funny that like a bunch of years after these movies come out, there's these things called escape rooms, which are basically like timed non-torturous
Well, the
versions of this.
yeah. Well, they did make two movies and a whole bunch of ripoffs, but there was Escape Room and Escape Room 2.
Yeah, and a bunch of ripoffs and other stuff. But
Yeah.
the whole the my point was that this kind of like started all the puzzles and trying to figure things out, and you have to solve the mystery before you get killed, or before you lose the game, you know.
Yeah, and some of this doesn't make sense. And like the guy, Xavier gets the key. As he
Hmm.
unlocks it, that triggers the gun and shoots the guy in the eye. So that's our kind of our second eye thing. But then a little bit later, the door opens. So it's like, okay, so I guess the door opened because the guy got shot in the eye. Because it should open automatically then. If that's the whole thing, is okay, now you guys got to move to the next room. This guy's dead. But instead, they stand around for a while. And then it like cuts back to the detective, Donnie Wahlberg, with
Hmm.
Jigsaw. And then we cut back to the room, 5, 10 minutes later. And then the door opens for them to go to another room.
All right.
But these are things where they have to work perfectly. It's almost like kind of Final Destination type of thing where what if that guy didn't look through the people?
Right.
Because
Uh,
why would you? It might be okay. Hey, don't turn that key. Let me look first. No, I can't see anything. There might be something blocking it. All right, now open it, and then the gun fires right past it,
all
and
right.
then like the bullet goes into somebody. But if the guy did not look through that people, you wouldn't have had a dead person. So it's like
Exactly.
the game and all of these where if these
Right.
guys turn left, it's not going to work if they have to go right.
But if nobody looked through the people, like nobody did the key and all that, uh they would have been okay. That person would have been okay because well, I guess they did leave out of that room, right? So that, like, right? Like once he unlocked it, they left out of that room, didn't they? Or did they
Yeah,
leave
but but it took a little bit for the door to open.
right.
So if the gun went off, that would signal the controls to then open the door. It's we're seeing Amanda's with them, so she can't operate it,
Right.
and Jigsaw's doing his own thing, so he can't operate it. So is there maybe a third person? But if
There was a there was a third gunman on the grassy knoll.
there were a few of them actually, um, but the door still takes like 10 minutes to open. It opens when the film wants it to open,
Right.
basically.
So Xavier returns to the safe room and finds a number on the back of Gus's neck. After realizing the numbers are the combination of the safe, he kills Jonas and begins hunting the others. Laura succumbs to a nerve agent and dies. Laura was that girl, right? Like that girl right there, the Beverly Mitchell's character from Seventh
Yes.
Heaven. I liked her. I like seeing her in a horror movie. You don't see Beverly Mitchell in horror movies. The only things I remember seeing her that weren't like more family oriented was this, and she was in a Crow movie, one of the Crow movies.
Oh, okay.
Not one of the good ones. Like she was in like I think the Edward Furlong one that where he was
Oh,
the
good.
Crow. Yeah. So something like that because I don't think she was in City of Angels because I think City of Angels was pretty okay. Like wasn't great, but wasn't The Crow, you know? But none of the sequels have ever been better than that, and I don't know if the remake will be, but not my problem. If it is,
Yeah,
it is.
I won't be seeing the remake, but okay.
All
Yeah.
right. So after so Laura succumbs to the nerve agent and dies after finding the clue revealing Daniel's identity. Um Incensed by the revelation, Addison leaves on her own and finds a glass box containing an antidote, but her arms become trapped in the openings which are lined with hidden blades. Xavier enters the room and leaves her to die after reading her number. Amanda and Daniel find a tunnel from the first room leading to a dilapidated bathroom. After Xavier corners them, Amanda taunts him by implying that he will not learn his number because nobody will read it to him, right? Um, which just begs the question, why can't can are there no mirrors there at all inside that place? Could he not like go to a mirror and kind of I guess that'd be hard too,
But I
'cause
think they even in the first film, I think they broke the mirror. That's where they found the camera.
yeah, so if he could break a mirror glass and kind of just look behind, like do that, that would be a way he could find out his own number, you know. But he does a different way. Xavier responds by cutting off a piece of skin from the back of his neck to read his number. Um, he's like, "Well, fuck you. I'm gonna read my number how I."
Well, so because he doesn't have a mirror or anything, what if he cut through it? Like, what if he just fucked up? Because when he takes it off, it's like this little perfect square.
Right,
So
which
what if
probably
he
wouldn't have
cut it?
happened.
Yeah, what if he just cut it sideways by mistake, and he's like, oh shit, what is this?
Or
You
what if it's
know?
on the other side than everybody else's? Like, because he's like, oh, it's on this side, like, everybody else's. So he starts going like this and he cuts it off and he's like, wait a minute, it's Blake. And then he has
It should
to.
have been like a giant piece of flesh that he cuts off just to make sure that he gets it. But whatever. Okay, fine. He's
uh,
crazy enough to do that. And I remember on the audio commentary that they say that the guy who plays Xavier is like one of the nicest guys that they've ever met. So
I'm
it's
sure. I'm
yeah, it's
sure. It's you because you get to meet these like at Harkovich's, you get to meet these really big guys, or whatever, like the wrestlers or whatever, and then you meet them and they're just big teddy bears,
yeah,
they're not the mean people that they portray because honestly most of those guys love portraying mean people because they're not mean people, like because
right.
it's I mean I like playing villains if I get to play a villain, it's more fun because hopefully I'm not really a villain in real life. I don't know.
Oh well, I think the best example of that, and this is in horror, but would be the Austin Power movies. I think Michael Myers liked playing Doctor Evil more than he liked playing Austin.
Well, because Dr. Evil just was more fun, honestly, in my opinion. He was more goofy and more silly than and Austin's silly, don't get me wrong, but like
I like both characters, but I like Doctor Evil better. And they were even going to do a spinoff with just Doctor
y-
Evil, so that kind of tells you who people liked better.
so you didn't like playing Fat Bastard the most?
Oh, I think they're all. I like all three movies. I find them all
I'm saying
funny.
Mike Myers didn't like playing Fat Bastard the most, I wonder. That he likes playing Scottish characters, he's done that
Because he's
since
Scottish.
yeah, he's done that since I think Saturday Night Live is where he started using the Scottish voice. Then he did it for So I Married an Axe Murderer, then Shrek and everything. Fat bastard. Um all right, so Xavier charges them and Daniel slits his throat with a hacksaw. Slits Xavier's throat with a hacksaw. Um, Having seen Xavier chasing his son, Matthews assaults John and forces him to lead him to the house. The tech team tracks the video source, and while Riggs' team searches the house, Carrie realizes that the game took place days before they captured John, and the footage they thought they'd been seen live was actually pre-recorded. Soon after, the timer for Matthew's game expires, and a nearby safe unlocks to reveal Daniel inside. So had he just waited, right? Wasn't impatient about his son, and everything. Just waited till everything you know, got through. He would have just got his son and the game would have been over and they could have, you know, whatever. But they didn't want that. They knew that I think that's gonna be talked about in a second, that they knew he was uh the Daniel inside. Okay, so soon after, the timer for Matthew's game expires, and a nearby safe unlocks to reveal Daniel inside, bound and breathing in an oxygen mask. Unaware of these events, Matthews enters the house alone and makes his way to the bathroom, where he is subdued by a pig-masked figure. He awakens shackled at the ankle to a pipe and finds the tape recorder left by Amanda, who reveals she had become John's accomplice after surviving her excuse me, after surviving her first trap and helped him set up Matthew's test during the game at the house, intending to continue John's work after he dies. Amanda then appears and seals the door, leaving Matthew to die as John hears the screams outside and smiles.
I I absolutely love, and this is what I love about this series, that this is only the second film, and they make their way back to the bathroom from the first film. I
I
love
love that. I
that.
love that too. I did like that. I thought that was really kind of a little neat thing, because like a lot of these movies, especially when it's sort of a continuation from the first one, they don't ever go back to the well and go to the first.
Yeah,
So
I love that. It's funny that John goes, well, detective, what are you going to do to me that's that's going to hurt me? I already have cancer. Well, how about I beat the fuck out of you with while you have cancer? So it's like, okay, so I think he did it. I mean, he
yeah,
was pretty beaten up.
he
So
beat the shit out of him. He like
yeah, yeah. So it's like, okay, answer solved for, okay, you have cancer, but I think on top of having probably your nose broken and your jaw broken, and I think he succeeded in his goal.
yeah.
The bathroom, if I'm remembering correctly, because I think it's this film. I don't think it's part three, but is the Scary Movie set. So they didn't know Saw was going to be a hit. They completely destroyed that whole set. And they're like, crap, now we got to rebuild the whole set again. But it's one of the Scary Movies with
Probably
Dr.
one of the
Phil.
newest one or whatever, like the last one that they did. They're rebooting that, which I'm like, why?
Oh, God, why? But
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's Dr. Phil and Shaq or something, and they're stuck in the bathroom. They just took that set and brought it over and filmed. So that's the Scary Movie set that where they're
Speaking
spoofing Saw.
speaking of which, did you know they're also rebooting Naked Gun? Did you know that?
No, that's why no.
No. And
No.
Liam Neeson is playing Lieutenant Frank Drebin's son or something. And Pamela Anderson is his like love interest, I guess, or whatever. I don't understand why these reboots are happening, but they are now. And I don't know if like the humor of Naked Gun will work for now. So I'm guessing it's gonna be
Because it's not going to be taken seriously. It's not going to be. Frank Drebin was absolutely taken seriously.
right.
Like it's the people around him that realized what an idiot he is.
Well,
And so yeah, no,
I
I'm not going to watch any of
I
this stuff.
really liked uh and maybe this was like the catalyst for it, but in Ted 2. Did you ever see Ted 2?
Yeah.
You know the scene where Liam Neeson comes and he's basically the taking character and he's talking about cereal or whatever, like to Ted. And he was like,
No, I don't remember.
you don't remember that? And he took it so seriously. Like he was serious about it. He was like, he was like, he said some, oh, is tricks just for is tricks exclusively for children? He was like, well, they say tricks are for kids on the box, but I think it was like, so I'm not going to get in trouble if I come out of here, with a box of tricks. And he's like, nope, 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 you're not going to be, blah, 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 right? And then he's like, okay, but if you're wrong, I'm coming back and I'm coming after you, And he was very serious. And so maybe, I don't know, like, because that humor was good. That worked. It made me laugh because everybody else was so, like, was Ted was so silly or was actually goofy and whatnot. But that guy was very serious. I don't know. Maybe Liam Neeson could do a good job. I don't know.
No, I don't think so because even the guys who made the Naked Gun movies didn't know what they were doing. So the TV series is brilliant. And then the first Naked Gun is good. If you notice, it's called, From the Files of Police Squad, The
Mm,
Naked Gun.
yeah.
And then the second and third one are just called The Naked Gun, like 2 and 3.
Yeah.
No,
Two and a
it should
half. And
it
then the
should
third
be
one's 33
From
and a
the
third.
Files of Naked Gun, something different. Smell of
No.
Fear. From the Files of Police Squad, something different. You shouldn't be using the same title 3 times because they're not Naked Gun files. It's like they didn't know what they were doing, which is why also their versions of Scary Movie really sucked.
Mm.
So it's no, I won't watch it. I no, there's no reason to. No, no,
All right.
no.
Anywho, um, but to go back to Saw 2, um, I mean, like I said, I enjoyed it. I liked one better, but that doesn't mean this movie wasn't bad or anything. It just, once again, it's people like there will be things I'm sure in each different one that, like you said, I will get something out of it. Like I will like each one like I'll start like learning more about these characters or it'll get changed around a little bit or something. But other than that, it's people getting tortured. That's it. I mean, it's the same thing as like people can say the same thing about slashers, And I'm kind of losing interest in slashers these days because it's okay, a guy in a mask goes around and kills people. It used to be kind of cool, but now I feel like I've seen it, you know. So I don't know. It's weird with the Saw movies. I
Yeah,
uh,
I think that their attention to detail is very good, but they do at one point get where it does get very convoluted. So it's John's reasons for doing things become a little muddled because they kind of keep adding stuff to it. It's
yeah.
better when it's just simple.
Did I ever
Because
tell did I ever tell you I almost met Tobin Bell?
I believe so.
Did I tell you on this podcast or
I
on the
think so.
on the last one? But yeah, Brendan Mitchell. I was hanging out with them and they saw him. And they saw him, you know. And they were asking me, do I think that's him? And I was like, maybe. And they were like, I was like, why don't you go ask? Why not? I mean, worst comes to worst, it's not him, and they're kind of embarrassed, you know. But if it is him, I'm sure he loves fans, coming up and saying hello, you know.
Does he?
I don't know. It'd be even wouldn't it be funny if he's out at a cafe and he's just minding his own business and a fan comes up to goes, "Do you want to play a game?"
I mean, he probably has as a joke,
Uh,
sure,
I
but
know he
yeah.
probably gets like really like just like Chucky, like Brad Dorff probably gets annoyed, by people. You know what I mean? Like coming up to him and go, "Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?"
Yeah,
You
because
know,
they've heard it 10 billion
I
times.
know.
So, well, what did you think? Because obviously there's different directors. So, who do you like better? Do you think this was the correct director to go with?
I liked honestly, I like James Wan as a better director. I think stylistically, I like his shots and stuff. I think Darren's cool. Darren's a good director. Like I like him, but I think James is a director, like he knows all the shots, he knows um like he's like to me he's more like an Alfred Hitchcock or really, really, or Orson Welles. Like he knows how to fucking frame a shot really well, you know?
So I'm always curious, like, what did they see in him? Because he's only made in 2000, he made a short film called Butterfly Dreams, and then he did a feature called Identity Lost in 2001, and then Saw 2.
Okay. So here's the answer. Saw 2 is immediately greenlit after Saw's successful opening weekend a year earlier. Producers needed a script for the sequel, but James Wan and Lee Winnell, director and writer of Saw, were working on Universal Pictures' Dead Silence. Music video director Darren Lynn Bozeman is a music video director. Had just completed a script for his first film, The Desperate, and was trying to sell it to the studios, was getting reactions that the script is very similar to Saw. A German studio eventually approached him with an offer to produce the film for $1 million. Just as they were looking for a cinematographer, the American cinematographer David A. Armstrong, who had worked on Saw, arrived on the scene and suggested showing the script to Saw producer Greg Hoffman. Hoffman read the script and called Bozeman, wanting to produce The Desperate. Bozeman was initially upset when he heard about his script similarities to Saw and feared at first that Lionsgate's call was due to complaints of plagiarism. After Hoffman showed the script to the partners, Mark Berg and Oren Poulos, the two decided that The Desperate was the starting script they needed for Saw 2. And 2 months later, Bozeman was flown to Toronto to direct. Um, Winnell polished the script with input from Wan in order to bring it to the Saw universe, but kept the characters' traps and deaths from the Desperate script. So apparently he had traps and all this. He did Saw before he even realized what Saw was, you know?
Yeah, it
He had a
sounds like it.
similar idea. Bozeman said, but you could read the script for The Desperate and watch Saw 2, and you would not be able to draw a comparison. Bozeman's first draft for The Desperate consisted of an X-rated violent film, but after Bozeman's agent found difficult to have the script bought because most studios were turned off by the level of violence, Bozeman modified his script to be an R-rated film, which is when the executives of Lionsgate were turned on his potential. Overall, the framework of The Desperate had a similar bleak, disgusting atmosphere and a twist ending, which is why the executives found parallels in the script style. Wan and Winnell also served as executive producers. All the previous film's crew members returned. Editor Kevin Garut. I liked the editing in this one better than the. Wait, was it? Yeah, like I think there was something like I think with Wan's style, um, the editing was too quick in the first one, you know, and stuff. So sometimes the editing just irritated me a little bit. But with this, it was calmed down because he did not do a lot of like he didn't do all the cool like shots and shit like James Wan did, in my opinion. See what I'm saying?
I would disagree with that.
What you think the editing was?
I think he's more frantic in the second one.
I don't remember it being too frantic, but
Because for part two, there was the constant um like editing within the editing type of thing where you would
That's
there'd be a
right.
character and then it would like go and you would see like them doing something and there'd be like 20 different things happening and then it would
Right.
go normal where Juan didn't do that. It didn't
That's right.
bother
That's
me.
right. That's right. That's right. I did know. I'm kind of confusing the two movies because I think that happened, and I think I wrote to you when I was
You wrote
watching it.
with part two a while back where you were saying that
Yeah,
you thought the editing was annoying.
yeah, it was annoying in this. It's okay. Never mind. I take that back. So like, yeah, it just drove me nuts because I thought that was the first one, but with the editing. But
Man, you're only on film two and they're already
yeah,
similar and confusing and
yeah. Um,
jumbled.
Cinematographer Armstrong and composer Charlie Clouser. The film would be Hoffman's last film. He died on December 4th, 2005, almost 2 months after the release of Saw 2. So,
Hence the character of Hoffman coming in.
yeah. So that was the producer Greg Hoffman who passed away. Only those key cast and crew members were also involved in the film's ending were given the full script. The first received only the first 88 pages. If a particular page was rewritten, the old page was shredded. Members were also required to sign confidentiality agreements, requiring them not to release any plot details. Reportedly, 4 to 5 alternate endings were shot in order to keep the ending a surprise. Bozeman gave the actors freedom to change the dialogue in the script. He said that 95% of the time the actors went by the script, and with about 5% being ad libs, which he said made all the difference in the world. Donnie Wahlberg was allowed to modify some pieces of dialogue, especially those of Eric Matthews' interactions with his son, Daniel and Jigsaw. For the former, Wahlberg added the line of what was the last thing Eric told Daniel, basing it on what he says to his first son before hanging up the phone. For the latter, Wahlberg felt that the relationship between Eric and Jigsaw was too dicey and would emphasize Eric's need to sit with Jigsaw to rescue his son. Tobin Bell agreed with most of these changes, which Wahlberg added after finishing shooting every day, and the two improvised together on set. That's kind of cool. Hoffman said in an interview with Fangoria that they listened to fans' suggestions. Go back to what we were saying, right? For instance, instead of only showing the aftermath of a character violently dying in a flashback, they would allow it to unfold as it happened. This was in contrast to Saul, in which most of the violence was implied off screen. Now it's also because they have more money. By the time they're doing that, they can do they can do more stuff. Where in Saw 1, they had to, they were very concise and you know what I mean? Like they were within a budget and they didn't have a lot of leeway with things, you know.
Well, and it's still more or less one location. So
It
it's
is. It's main. Well, yeah, it is because you find out later that it's all kind of connected in a way or whatever.
yeah, I mean the house is the main one, and then where Jigsaw is would be a second one, but it's still kind of a one location movie. And well, speaking of the of cost and stuff, so let's look at this then. So Saw the original, the budget on that was 1 million to 1.2 million, and it grossed 103.9 million. So very good. But now the second one is 4 million and it grossed 152.9 million.
So wait, it was more than the first one?
Yeah.
Yeah, more. Oh,
A
good.
little bigger budget, but it did make more money. So this was made about 50 million more.
Yeah, almost 50 million, or yeah, almost
Yeah.
150 million more. You mean? Yeah, it
Oh
made
yes,
all.
yes, yes, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, because it was 152 million as opposed to the 4 million. So yeah, 100, almost 150 million more, 148, I guess, million. That's a pretty good profit, I would say. You know.
Yeah, yeah. So you know, hence why they made Saw 3.
Well, I mean, okay. So we look at I always like bringing this up to you. I think you and I might disagree or whatever on this, but like from what I understand, Disney always talks about how because their Marvel movies originally, when they were good, and they weren't bombing in the box office, they were making billions of dollars, right? That was like the amount that they wanted to make. Now, horror hardly ever I don't think horror's ever made $1 billion movie. There's never been a movie that made $1 billion because it's there's not families taking their kids to this, necessarily, or whatever. But the point being is that like Disney always kind of views that $1 billion as their like that's their goal for every movie that they put out is we got to make every Marvel movie now make $1 billion. Every Star Wars movie now has to make $1 billion. If it doesn't make $1 billion, it hasn't, it hasn't done whatever. And when a company like Lionsgate, who's a cheaper company, like cheaper as in like they don't have the Disney money, period. When they make a movie like this and it makes $150 million, that's still peanuts compared to what like Disney was originally doing, was originally making, in my opinion, right? Even though they're making $148 million profit, you know, if somebody makes a movie for 200 million and it grosses over $1 billion like Barbie, you know, right? You know, they're making way more money than like these little movies, you know?
I think I mean with the Disney stuff with like let's say Marvel is until basically Captain Marvel. That's when Feige got 100% involved. Everything before that was done by committee. And that's when then they fired people like Nelson Peltz and stuff like that. They were interested in making a profit. They were interested in making good stories. And then these people got fired. Bob Iger brought in his own people, his own friends and stuff that have no idea how this stuff works. And Feige took over. And from
Well,
Captain Marvel, which was
that's
it was a million, but that's only because it was sandwiched in
right.
between. So in
But
some cases, a
Av-
committee is better for these type of things than one
Avengers,
guy.
Avengers Endgame and Infinity War both were big hits. Like those make billions of dollars, you know.
Right, but it's then if you once you get into something like phase three, everything goes down the toilet, and that's because that's primarily Iger, the and Iger and Feige. So it's they're not going to with something like the Saw series is one of the producers whose Hoffman did die. Unfortunately, he died of cancer. Um, and but you still had the other two, and
The other
they
two
stayed
producers.
on throughout the series. So you had the main producers do this,
Right.
and they did take risks, and sometimes it paid off, and sometimes it didn't. But you always had those key figures in, and they were smart, like Blumhouse was for a long time, where the budgets were much smaller and they could make money.
It's kind of funny because like so this movie, this series, and like Paranormal Activity, which we've covered, are sort of like these were the summer movies, if I'm correct. These are the movies or summer, fall maybe
Well,
movies that
Saw and yeah, they come out. They'd be like October because
yes,
that's
they come
yeah
out around the same time. So, but they would be like competing against each other in a way, or whatever.
that was the problem. Was it Saw was number one up until six,
Saw
and
6, yeah,
six became number two because that's when Paranormal Activity one came out.
right.
And that's when they went, okay, we got to end the series. So that's when they did Final Chapter,
Mm-hmm.
which still made money, but not as much as Paranormal Activity 2.
Right.
And then Paranormal Activity, when it ran its course, and then something else takes over.
Exactly.
So it's a, and I've always, and I've mentioned this to you before, that I have an issue with Final Chapter, um, because it should they should have made one more movie. They should have gone up to 8 and just finished everything instead of
Trying to wrap it up in one movie.
in one 90-minute film where we don't even get to see characters from previous movies that should have been brought back.
No.
So if you're going to give a big send off and all that, you got to bring everybody back,
I'm
and they
surprised they
could have
have
done that.
I'm surprised they haven't made a Saw TV show. I mean, they're making TV shows for Chucky and The Purge and, all these other shows. Why not?
I think they would kind of have to start from scratch, since
Probably.
I mean they made that huge mistake by giving John cancer.
Yeah. I mean, he's and he's like villain. You can't have. I mean, I guess I don't know. I gotta watch the rest of the movies, but like,
I mean, yeah, they try to somehow get him in there in almost every single one. Like it's a flashback or an article or something like that. Somehow they always try to do it, but then I think that they realized with stuff like Jigsaw and Spiral that people just want Saw. So
yeah,
that's why they did Saw 10, and they just said, well, it takes place between 1 and 2. And
yeah, you're gonna
uh
have to do that a lot. You're gonna have to have it where it takes place between things because otherwise, how is this character who's gonna die of cancer, you know, gonna outlive everybody? You
well,
know?
yeah, and they don't take it back. I mean, you look at something like Breaking Bad, magically his cancer kind of disappeared,
Right.
and
Walter White
every once in a while it's brought up.
sounds like a Marvel character. Walter White. Because was it Stan Lee liked to name everything with names that start with the same letter. So, if you ever notice that, I don't know. I heard it from Big Bang Theory or whatever, like J. Jonah Jameson, Peter Parker, you
Oh, okay.
know, all of them have I mean there's so many that do it. Uh Bruce Banner. I mean, everything is, so it's crazy to think like how many of them are the names, and so Walter White would fit with the
Yeah,
Marvel
I guess
cinematic.
he would be Cancer Man.
Yeah, what is it? Breaking Bad man.
Yeah,
Oh, and
yeah,
there you go, BB, Breaking Bad.
yeah.
Um,
Okay, all right. So, but it's yeah, I think that they really painted themselves in a corner,
right.
because you can even tell from the boxes, and that would be, I guess, the individual boxes, especially the DVDs. When John dies, it's right there on the poster. I mean, they don't hide it. So it's not that far into the series.
I'm sad it's not called John Dies at the End. There
That
already is a movie called
that's a
that.
different movie. Yeah,
Yeah, and it
but he
wasn't.
doesn't die at the end. He dies at the beginning, kind of. I mean, it doesn't take very long for him to die.
Spoiler alert, Jesus.
Well, he has cancer. You can't. I mean, how long is he going to survive? But
Uh,
yeah, it should be interesting to see what you think happens, because it is kind of a trilogy, 1, 2, and 3, and then 4 kind of starts its own thing,
mhm.
and then 5 is standalone, more or less, because that's the detective movie. That's the murder mystery movie that a lot of people don't like, that I love. And then 6 kind of jumps back in, and then 7's the end. and then we get into all the other jigsaws and spirals and stuff like that. But the first three are almost, I guess you could probably put part four in there, kind of its own thing.
For sure. Well, I guess that about wraps it up. I mean, we talked about the whole movie and throughout it. Do you like me reading kind of the synopsis and then just kind of sharing our things, throughout it or whatever?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we can be more detailed because they don't get into detail in those things. I mean, the guy to your left there, I guess it would be with the tie gets the bullet in the head, and then we get the or in the eye, and then we got the son. Glenn Plummer gets the baseball bat with the nails in it in the head.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got your girl from Seventh Heaven. She dies of
She
the
dies of the stuff.
yeah,
The
and then the girl next to you there, she gets her arms stuck up
Yep.
in one of those traps, which I guess if you're not a very intelligent person, or maybe she's just desperate for the antidote, she would put her hands up in there. But I think that there are ways to get your arms out of those. Like you have to relax or something, and
Yeah.
then it kind of falls open. It's like those finger puzzle things that you
Yeah,
put
I
them
was
in, and
thinking
your
about that too, like the finger traps.
yeah, like if you relax, it will release. So I think
Finger
because she
cuffs.
was, yeah, finger cuffs, yeah, that she panicked. And because she kept panicking, it wouldn't open. But I think if she relaxed, I think that she could
Mm-hmm.
probably get her
Probably.
hands out.
I don't know. But that guy doesn't care. He wants her to die. That one
Yeah,
guy
he just wants the number,
wants the number.
and then Xavier, he gets his neck cut, and then the son is okay, and then we find out that
Amanda's a, traitor.
Amanda's so that
And
she's
she gets I mean, to me, she gets the worst of it all. Like, ugh. Like I can't imagine having to deal with all those needles. I do not like needles. Um, I don't know if you know this about me, but I had a growth hormone as a kid. My parents gave me growth hormone, thinking that it'd make me taller. Didn't really, I don't know if I'm taller than I would have been. Pretty fucking short, so
okay.
I'm not, maybe I would have been a teeny tiny person. I don't know. But anyway, I would have to have a shot in my leg and it was kind of like those, like syringes, or whatever, and have shot I don't know if it was every day, but it felt like every day if it wasn't.
Oh, that
And
sucks.
yeah, it was not fun. And if by some chance my mom when I was a little kid actually hit my vein, one of my veins, blood would just start coming out.
Oh wow.
Fun times, man.
Yeah,
As a kid.
and yeah, that sucks. So
Yeah, you know, it is what it is. Like I've had issues all over. I'm deaf in my left ear and I have the growth hormone issues. My parents were really trying to make me a normal kid. Just the universe was like, fuck this dude. This dude's gonna give him whatever crap we can give him and whatnot. And then put on some bad self-esteem, low self-esteem and shove him out there in the world. You
oh
know?
geez.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how I was as a kid. But I grew up to be a little bit, I don't know, just understanding of everything later. And that's I guess what you got to do is, just get over that shit. You're an adult now, you know.
Unless
So,
you're thrown into a pit with dirty hypodermic needles.
I don't want
So
that. No,
what she
don't.
well, and then my question with her with everything is so she survived the bear trap, and then she becomes the assistant, and then for some reason he's like, you have to go through this again. So he's standing there while she's cutting her wrists.
You're right.
Like it pans from her cutting her wrists, and he's up at the window. So I don't know if that's like, oh, you have to be authentic.
Mm,
Because what if one of the bandages comes off? And by the way, she's doing it wrong. I mean, this way is to get attention. This way is serious. So she was cutting it this way, which was for attention.
uh,
Um, that, and that's actually from Family Guy, was where I learned that from. Meg tells somebody how
wow,
to do it.
wonderful.
Yeah,
Wow, how
and
wonderful.
And
I'm sure that episode was brought up in wanting to ban that episode because of all the suicide sort of things, that
well, it's a spoof, so
yeah.
but I just, it's like I still don't get why he had her do it twice. I
Mm.
still don't fully, unless it is like, well, for you to take over my legacy, now I have to test you again, which is why
Oh,
she's in the bathtub at the end when Donnie Wahlberg comes in and she's dressed up like the pig, and she is the one who cuffs him and does the leg cuff. And I still love that fucking ending. I
mm.
love that they went back to the original movie. I love
Yep.
it. And that's not the last time we see that bathroom either. So it's,
Good.
yeah, they, like I said, it's once you watch the whole series, you'll get it. You'll really see how they're like, oh crap, we didn't answer that. All right, well, we're doing movie 5. We're going to answer that, something from part 2. And then you see it. So I really love that they did that, and they did a pretty good job. So it does get muddled, does get a little muddy, but they do a pretty good job.
All right. Well, I guess with the next time in June, when we come back for this in June, we'll be discussing Saw 3. So I'm really excited.
Trace, Saw Trace.
Saul Trace. And then Saul Quattro, like right after. So, but I'm really excited. This is gonna be a lot of fun. I have a feeling, uh, I don't know. I don't know how I'm gonna feel yet. I may start like really, really enjoying this stuff, or I may feel the same. I mean, you and I have different tastes on a lot of this stuff, Um, and that's wonderful though, because, you know, if we had the same taste, kind of be boring, wouldn't it? You know?
Yeah, I think once you get into it, once things are answered in other movies, that you might get into it. I mean, that was my thing with Saw 10, knowing that it takes place between 1 and 2. I'm like, oh, they better do certain things. If they don't, we got a problem, story
Yeah.
wise. And they did. So they're aware of what's going on. So if there is a continuity error or a plot hole, I think for the most part they take care of that. But by final chapter, there's so much story. I don't think, which is why they should have done part 8.
Hmm.
It's you just can't sum everything up from all those movies in just one film.
Yeah.
That's, I think, what stops me from making this my all-time favorite, like, horror franchise. Why Chucky is 1 and this would be 2 is I think that they do a great job, but they just screwed it up with
And
the
Chucky
final
didn't.
chapter. Chucky has not had a bad movie, and I don't care what people say about Seed. Fuck off. It's a good movie.
I've actually not
And
seen that one. I just saw, what is it? Bride of Chucky for the first time. So, it's funny because I've watched Cult of Chucky and what was the one Curse of Chucky before I watched uh the other two, because I'd heard so many bad things about Seed. It made me like turned off, and then I knew sort of Bride of Chucky was very similar to. So we'll have to do Mainstream Monday, maybe next year, next season. We'll have to do the Chucky movies,
yeah,
because
because now the TV shows are just, each one is like an extended movie.
yeah.
And I think there are 8 episodes. And in fact, there's a new episode on tonight. So I'll have to see if I can
You're
watch
like, ooh,
that.
ooh, you're excited, you know.
But it's I now the rumor is, because a lot of people, maybe jokingly or not, have said to Don Mancini, the season 4 needs to be in space. So now there's all these rumors that he's in talks and that it could be in space. So I would have no problem with the ending at 3. My beginning, middle, and end thing. So I have no problem with threes.
Chucky
Just like,
goes to Houston. Houston, we have a Chucky. You
Yeah, I
know?
mean think that would just be awesome to have Chucky in space. I mean, it's been done before, but they Chucky could just get into, all this stuff that Jason couldn't do, and
Well,
all of
if
that.
Jason could be up there, I mean, and then Freddy could be in space, and then all of them, they all fight each other.
They just had to figure out how to get him up into space. I would think that they would just throw him into a big metal box and he would
And
just go
shove
up
them off
there
to like, yeah, to the
onto
rocket.
some space station. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but I'm excited because it's still, yeah, it's still my favorite. And I think if the final chapter was better, it would probably be my number one. It's the same thing with Scream. Like Scream is my third favorite, and that's only because of stuff like Part Three is not that great, and
Or the
a lot
newest
of
stuff.
yeah. So even though I do
You're not,
like them and they're in my top five of favorite series, they're still
yeah. I mean, Scream 1 is my favorite, like, horror movie of all time. Like, it used to be like, so when people ask me what's my favorite horror film, I kind of have two ones for it. Scream is the movie that got me back into horror, and got me to love horror again, got me to love slashers again, just got me to enjoy that stuff. But Evil Dead, the original Evil Dead, which we'll be covering, soon, is the movie that I say is probably my favorite horror film. Like I just think it's a well crafted, fun movie, you know.
right.
Independently done, great movie, and everything. And after watching part two and three, I mean, do I think that number one will hold up still? Actually, I still think so, but I still love two and three so much now, like that I'm like, damn, I could watch these over and over again, you know.
It's a slow
Um,
burn, man. The Evil Dead is a
uh,
big slow burn. So,
Evil
but
Dead.
I am looking forward to it to rewatch because I haven't seen it in a while, and I was thinking like, oh god, I'm gonna have to watch Army of Darkness again, which I really loved, and then watching again. Same thing with Evil Dead 2. So I think I'll really enjoy watching the first one. It's just a slow burn. And I do like how Bruce Campbell has pointed out that just Ash is not a good character. He's like just such a jerk
Yeah,
and a coward and
but
and
if you think about it, Bruce Campbell, like I remember these girls were interviewing him, and I watched this review, like this interview. It got taken off YouTube because I guess because they didn't like how basically Bruce Campbell was being being Bruce Campbell. He was being this sort of, or he's being Ash. He was kind of bringing a little bit of a kind of jovial prick, to them in the interview. And I was like, oh man, he's I don't think he's being Ash, he's being Bruce, but he's being very sarcastic and answering their questions like they're idiots, you know, and stuff like that. And that's sort of what he does, and stuff with his fans. He loves his fans, but like, he treats them like they're part of the series, you know.
I would love to interview him as a producer. I don't want to I would love to not I don't want to interview him as Ash. I would love to interview him as a producer from before the Evil Dead, talk about the short films and all that, and then as he slowly kind of got into that producer credit, and then how he does stuff today. Because to me, that was the most interesting stuff of watching things like like Ash vs Evil Dead, and how he talked about how they picked a director, and
Mm.
for how they settled for if they have 10 directors that they would pick five for season two, the best ones. And
Well,
I would be much more interested in hearing
yeah.
about him as a producer because you know,
If you read If Chins Could Kill, his first book, it's a how-to guide to independent filmmaking. He talks about every single facet of production, and to me, it's fascinating. I actually do go back and read because there are things that business stuff that he goes into that they didn't know when they were making Evil Dead or all these other things, but they learned, through doing it, right? Because people would ask him all these questions and they'd be like, no, we don't have the answer to them. And then they learned how to how to answer them, and they tell you how to answer it, how to answer these questions. If somebody asks you this question, this is how you answer it, and everything like that. And so it is one of the most and it's done in his tongue-in-cheek kind of fashion, but it's a real true, how to guide of filmmaking, low budget filmmaking, and I love it. So
I'll have to check it out. So yeah, I've never read it.
you never read it? Oh man, you would love it.
No.
I mean, there's things about the special effects, there's things about just the business stuff of how to get a business license, and how they did that in Detroit, and things like that. Just stuff that I'm like, like I need this, I need to know this stuff, I didn't know they screened the original short film that they made Within the Woods inside inside the local grocery shop that Sam Raimi worked at. He took a TV and did it in the aisles, like by the lettuce and stuff, and showed investors, potential investors, his short film to get money for his movie. Like,
Huh.
stuff like that. Like, I was like fascinated by that stuff. So I'm sure you are too. So if I totally recommend If Chins Could Kill, and if you I don't know when you can get that, but if you can get that like through eBay or something like that, it's pretty cheap.
So here's my problem is being dyslexic, I have a very hard time reading books and scripts and stuff. So I tend to go more for audiobooks, or if it's like a PDF file, I can have it play on my computer. It will
Right.
use that electronic voice, and I can do that. Otherwise, it takes me forever to read this stuff, and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the times I don't finish it.
Wonder.
That's
I wonder.
so, and I'm pretty sure it's available on audio, or you could probably get a PDF of it. So that would be.
Um, Hold on. If Chins Could Kill, I bet it's on. The audiobook is on. No, there
But
is pro audiobooks. There is one, and you can get it from Audible. Audible. So
okay.
for if Chins Could Kill. So
But if they
there you
would
go.
also just do like what they did with Paranormal Activity and just do a documentary where they talk to the filmmakers and the producers and the actors. I mean, they could do that for the Scream films. I'm not Scream. They could do that for Saw.
Yeah.
And that I would even think would be interesting of how they picked it up and Hoffman dying and renaming a character after him, and I think all that stuff would be very interesting. So I would like for somebody to actually make like I don't know. I guess for this it would have to be a 2 hour documentary,
It
maybe.
would be like it would be like the Paranormal Activity documentary that we watched, where it went through every film and they had everybody talk, but it took like
Well,
two to
yeah,
three
because
hours.
because that was very interesting, especially when they talked about the first one, and this guy never made a movie before. He had no idea what to do,
Yeah,
and he
he
looked
just
it all
was.
up. And you're seeing the behind the scenes stuff of people actually opening the door and how he made them like disappear from the screen. And then
Uh-huh.
I talked to Joe Lujan about that, and he goes, "Oh yeah, that's exactly how you do it."
Yeah.
So it's like it's so stuff like that to me is important. It's valuable for low budget people to know how do you get a door to close without just using fishing line.
Well, because back in the day, it used to be film school, right? And everything. But nowadays, we have books that, you could just buy books. You could buy, it's good to have a degree, but is that necessary to making your own film, or whatever? And like we've talked about, most of the time, people just make a short film or even a feature, depending, and you make the feature and then you put out the feature at films, at in film festivals or whatever, and somebody might see it, like James Wan might see it and say, "Oh, you're perfect to direct Curse La Llorona," like we've discovered, or for a short film or for a feature film. A lot of times now Marvel picks up people from that directed sometimes horror films too. Like the guy who directed Clown was the director for like Spider-Man, I believe, you know. But I think he also did Cop Car or something. I don't know. Did John Watts, that guy. But it's wonderful that Hollywood sees these people and they're like, oh my God, these guys are good. You know, I'm gonna
Well, that's why it frustrates me when I see all this stuff on like Facebook and stuff, that it's almost like these people that are on our kind of level or plane, that they just watch bad movies. It's like, no, stop watching just bad movies. Go and watch good movies.
go
You
watch Cop
can.
Car. The movies that are in the festivals and are winning festival awards, and shit like that, because those are the independent films that people should be striving to make, technically. You know? Like, if you want to be in Hollywood, right? If you just want to be a B movie director and you're just doing this for fun, I have a few friends who are directors who are just doing it because they like to make their backyard movies. Perfect. That's wonderful. Like, keep doing that. Not a problem. But if you want to actually go places, in my opinion, you need to really hone your craft and make something like Saul was as sort of a perfect example because those guys, this was their first feature. They had just done that one short just to show everybody, and I think they had done one other. I think James Wan had done one other short before, but like this was their baby. Like this was their calling card, you know,
Right.
and everything. And this got made for yeah, the first one got made for $1 million and became a fucking franchise. You know, they didn't. I don't think they were expecting that to happen, or I don't think they would have given him cancer. You know, I don't think I'm pretty sure they wouldn't. And I think they thought it'd be cool to have a villain that had cancer. Because like at that point no, but as he says, you point this out, as he says, like, what can you do to me that's not already being done to me? Like why, you know, why would I be scared of you when I've already got cancer running through me? You know what I mean? And so I get that. Like, but it was a really good movie. It made 11, or 10 more movies because was it Saw 10 and now there's Saw 11 coming out.
Yeah, which has been delayed. They're not releasing until next year.
Yeah, I saw that. It's kind of a bummer because I was hoping to.
It's good and bad, because I'm hoping it's just because they want to make the best movie possible. So it's nice that they're just not just throwing some script together and releasing it, this year. I'd rather wait and get a good movie, especially when it's coming off of Saw 10, which is so well made. You can't just
Well,
have some piece of shit.
yeah, and we talked about that with Quentin Tarantino. You said to me like you hope that Tarantino, who scrapped his newest project for the movie critic, he decided that that obviously a movie critic wasn't the movie that's going to be the best, one for him to go out on. So he's going to change it up and do something else that will be the best thing. I'm hoping he still does something with that script, makes it into a TV pilot or something, because like people still probably want to see what he had in mind,
Sure.
uh, but or as I said, like I would love to see like a book. He's been writing books and shit, so that's what he's gonna end up doing after the movie stuff. Perfect. Um, but yeah, you want it to be the best movie, right? You don't want him to just put out something he's not 100% happy with as his last movie. Like if he's gonna go out, he's gonna go out on a bang. I think it was stupid of him to like pigeonhole himself into 10 movies.
I
But
think, yeah, I agree. I think it's absolutely stupid. Just stop making movies for a while, and then you can come back with, hey, it's been 5 years and we got Tarantino's 11th movie, and so now it's now he's. I mean, who knows down the road if he's going to break that? I mean, rock bands do it all the time. This is, how
this
many
is our
times have
last
the
tour,
Who?
you
Yeah,
know.
I mean, the Who's had like 5 farewell tours.
Yeah.
So
We need more money. Let's do another farewell tour. Um, but like, yeah, that's the thing is the thing with Tarantino is he could, do anything else because he didn't limit himself to saying, I'm not going to do anything in the entertainment business after this. He said, I'm just not going to do any more movies. So he could do TV, he could do books, he could do comics, he could do whatever the fuck else he wants to do that's not
just say you're taking a
movies.
break. I think it's so. It's like Alex Garland saying, "Oh yeah, I'm not going to direct any movies after Civil War." Why? Your movie's making money.
Right.
I mean that
Uh,
makes no sense. Just say I'm taking a break, and then never come back.
yeah, I'm taking a break and then never come back if you don't feel like coming back.
Yeah,
But if you feel like coming back, I I don't even know why he gave himself that thing. He's sticking to it. Tarantino has not, we'll see after the movie's made if he's like, never mind. I'll make my 11th movie. Everybody will, you know, it I mean, I don't think it's going to be like a George R. R. Martin where he doesn't ever, he starts writing something, he just doesn't finish it. Like, so, promising people the 10th movie, you know. But I'm excited. Whatever he's got going on, I'll watch it. I'm a Tarantino fanatic, so, uh, but some people would be like, oh, Kevin Smith should have stopped at.
Kevin Smith should have stopped at Clerks.
That's a lot of people say, but you know me, I'm a lover. I'm a lover of Kevin Smith stuff, so I can't ever say that. And
I
plus,
think
if
I do. I think he should have stopped at Clerks too. Just come full circle, stop there, and just do comic
yeah,
books or whatever it is to just stop. And then that would have been a nice little bookend career. I think
it was
Clerks
a good
3
one to like.
sours that. So
Well, yeah. I wasn't. I thought it was okay. Like we had this discussion. We already reviewed this movie.
yes,
So,
yes.
we both have different opinions. Siskel and Ebert here. All right, so we're done with this. Thank you guys all for checking this out. Join us in uh June for Saw 3, Saw Trace. Until then, everybody, have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.